run and gun is actually a basketball term. I've thought about doing that, but some people tell me, no, don't use gun. So I decided to use run and shoot and just make it a basketball term. And that's how I came up with it. And there's some interesting things that happened in there. And one thing I thought was very interesting is that we started having people come in, and the first year we had 85,000 people come in.
85,000 people?
Yeah, 85,000. That's not how many we have. We might get 1,000 a day coming in or more.
But 85,000 unique visitors.
85 came through the door, yeah, originally.
Wow. From 1891, it's Anything is Possible. A show about competitors, fanatics, dreamers, and the stories behind the passions they pursued. I'm Coach K, and on today's show, how Jon Bain bought an old supermarket in a rundown shopping center and turned it into a 24-hour basketball facility that would bring in over 500,000 customers each year. The fitness industry. It's crowded, competitive, and segmented. There are over 36,000 fitness clubs in America, and we spend $19 billion annually on club memberships. Now, let's be honest, we stopped using them by the end of Black History Month. Companies like LA Fitness, Lifetime Fitness, and Planet Fitness dominate the collective mindshare of Americans, and we willingly drop that $35 each month like it's ties on Sunday. So if you're trying to compete in this space, you're either crazy, ill-advised, or you have a concept that's so unique it's going to completely disrupt the industry. A good example of this is Peloton, the technology-driven fitness club that has changed the game. So in 1991, when a middle-aged white man decided he was going to open a 24-hour basketball-only fitness club in the predominantly black inner-city streets of Atlanta for $6, you already know what they said about him. But riches, as they say, are in the niches. And popular opinion was never of importance to Jon Bain. He thrives on his ability to match obvious demand with seemingly unlimited supply. History would prove Jon right, as the current market trends are for niche clubs that offer unique, tailored experiences. Kickboxing, yoga, Zumba, and cycling have taken over the industry, and they range from small classes in a large facility to entirely standalone businesses. By 1997, Run and Shoot was a hallmark of the Atlanta culture scene. It had 70 employees, brought in over 1,370 people per day, and gross revenues of nearly $2 million. But perhaps the dopest stat of them all is that Run and Shoot's presence alone increased the business to neighboring retailers by over 25%. Now that's what we call an assist. But before we get into that, let's learn about Jon Bain the person. Born in Little Rock, Arkansas in the 1950s, a time when a conversation like he and I are having would not be possible. Jon tells a story of his upbringing.
My high school, West Side Junior High, by the time I was in the ninth grade, they were like 50-50 black-white. And I'd go to dances on Friday night. That was back when you could take records and they could play your records and you could get them back. back in the 60s, and back in the late 60s. But I remember times when songs like "Hold On, I'm Coming" and "Tighten Up," things like that. Even before that, But I had a whole collection of 45s and took them down there. But I would be the only white guy down there. The full of people dancing and everything. I was the only one there. Down there. But so I had no problem with all that stuff.
I gotcha. Okay.
And I guess that that kind of comes out when you're with people.
It does. Yeah.
They know what you think.
Yep. You can't hide that, right? Like it's in the energy and you feel it.
And so I've been playing basketball ever since before the eighth grade. I'd played basketball, but I had to choose between football, basketball, and track, and I didn't figure I could do all three. So in high school, I chose football and track, and so I didn't play on the team. Instead, I played church leagues and all the other things. And in fact, coach asked me to come out my senior year, but I just didn't. And so I ended up going to college for a while, 3 years, and then skipped and worked for a while, and then went back and finished and started playing ball again. When I went back and finished college, played a lot at the school and played with a lot of good guys. And then I taught school for a year, and we had an elementary school and a high school, and I went and we used to go every night and play. And about 10 of us used to go over to the elementary school and play full court every night.
Yeah.
Play full court for a couple hundred points apiece. About 200 to 200. We play for hours. So it was always playing. And that was nice because there was a place to play, and we every night, all year, and then I started playing basketball. I ran track in college and was playing basketball at the same time on my own. And then, but I always played basketball whenever I got a chance. I went in the Navy after that, and I even played basketball in the Navy when I could. I played when I wasn't on the ship. I played on the base, had teams and so forth. And then I got transferred to Indianapolis, Atlanta.
So how would you say your time in the Navy helped you from business? Because you were really successful in business in terms of movie stop, but also run and shoot.
Yeah, it obviously helped me. I mean, I had been in retail, worked in retail. I managed a 7-Eleven store. I worked in other convenience stores, and I had done several things in retail. But when I went in the Navy, I actually went in and didn't realize about supply officers and went to up to OCS and they I was a line officer and I said, I want to do supply, and people tell me, they don't usually let people get out of that, and go into line to supply. But I was a math major and a business minor at college. So I went and told them, I said, all the things I've done and my degrees and everything, and they switched me, so I got into supply, and of course the supply in the Navy was there's several sections, but so I had experience in all the areas, so that at least that gave me what I needed to know how to do things, from a business standpoint, at least from running something.
Got it. Okay. So, all right. So tell me about your video business. So you started video business in the 80s, movie stop, right?
Yeah.
What year did you start it?
84.
84. Okay.
And I video business had just gotten going in the country, back in the early 80s. And I thought, now this is a great business, because it's one of the things that I wanted to be in. I'd already been in, I was a supply officer in the Navy. I'd worked in retail. I'd worked in sporting goods stores. I'd worked, done a lot of things. So been in sales. So I knew the business aspect of it. So and the video business, it was just right. So I was able to open a video store before I got out of the Navy. And I started a chain of video stores when I was still in the Navy. When I got transferred to Atlanta, I saw Warehouse Records out in California. They were renting a lot of titles really cheap, and I got the idea from that and started doing the same thing. And it worked out. It turns out I started renting $1 and $2 a day, $1 for new releases and $2 for backstock. One of the problems too with that is new releases are of course the hotter things. So I ended up my price ended up being $1.50 for everything, and that worked out perfectly because I got a little more out of the dollar new releases because they were hotter and they got a good deal on the backstock, and so everything worked out. But
okay, so can you speak on, one of the things that you've told me in the past is like you felt like there was initially some bad quality with the movies that a lot of stores put in, and then you talked about like a rating system, and so tell me about that.
Yeah, okay. I used to screen about 20 movies a week, and one of the things is we had a good reputation for having good quality movies in our backstock, and even in our new releases, because there were a lot of really bad movies coming out on video at that time, and so I screened them, and I just wouldn't buy those things, and so I if I screened it, it looked like, well, okay, this is decent, you're not going to throw it in the trash or something, no, but it had to be pretty decent, and I would get those, and I knew that was knew it worked. A lot of people were more confident to come in and get a title that was on our catalog shelf as opposed to on the new release shelf, and that is very important that they had faith that was going to be a decent movie. And then eventually we even got stickers that rated them, as opposed to, like, there's some of these straight to video movies that were actually just as good as the theatrical ones, and even better in a lot of cases. And so we had rating stickers on those, so people would look at those and they'd know what they're getting.
So was it like a scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 10? I mean, how that work?
We had some color stickers that they were excellent, good, okay, or something like that.
So it's kind of like Siskel and Ebert almost.
In a way, but I wasn't trying to say whether it was a good movie for that person or not. Or I just wanted to make sure that when they watch it, they didn't say, "God, where'd you get this thing?"
Got it.
And they were just so upset because they paid money for it, and
Got
I
it.
wanted to make sure that didn't happen.
Makes sense. Okay.
And once they took it out, well, I didn't. That wasn't that great, but it was okay. No, that wasn't something that would keep them from going back and getting another.
So when you were doing Movie Stop, I mean, I got to imagine like Blockbuster was probably a competitor for you, right? Hollywood
They
Video.
actually didn't hurt our. They didn't hurt our business any. We were a good competition for them. For one thing, they were high price, $3 per day, and they had more inventory than we did, but you know half that stuff was really bad. And so I mean you can have a lot of tapes, but it doesn't matter if most of them aren't any good.
So what you're starting to see really early on is a David and Goliath story developing with Jon. This was true with Movie Stop, and it's true later on with Run and Shoot. Like any good, innovative entrepreneur, Jon is not afraid of the big boys, the incumbents. He's able to quickly identify holes in the market, gaps of service that are being missed or underestimated, and that's exactly where he focuses his efforts. He finds his 5 smooth stones and fights within his area of strength. And as you'll see in this interview, this strategy led to him being 2 for 2 in business.
Our system was shown to have been very good. New releases, a lot of copies of the movies, which is pretty standard in that business.
Yeah.
That you had to have.
Right.
You couldn't have a lot of people coming in if you didn't have a lot of what they wanted. And especially, well, the $1, $2 a day was good there. And when we went to the $1.50, it actually worked out. Our Disney movies were like 50 cents. Yes. So the kids' movies, all the kids' movies were 50 cents. So that made it even better. So somebody would come in and get a couple of $1.50 movies and a 50-cent movie and spend plenty of money, And we had plenty of stock on all that. And so it worked out very, very nicely. And we were, Blockbuster couldn't, I think they were $3 for 2 days, I believe. And we were $1.50 a day. But most people came back the next day, anyway. They didn't really care about keeping something for 2 days. They're going to take it home and watch that night.
Got it. So you start Movie Stop. You're able to identify some problems that exist currently in the market in terms of just quality, rating. So from there, you're able to see that high volume mixed with, adequate, supply meeting demand is what you saw as like an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then
good
you
price,
mix that with good
no
price.
Restrictions.
Okay.
Yeah. No membership fees. Good hours, everything. And that's where I got the idea of the volume concept for an athletic center.
So I mean, I played at Run and Shoot a lot growing up. Like anybody who grew up in Atlanta who liked basketball, you heard about Run and Shoot. You knew it was a place to go. I remember the first time I went to Run and Shoot, I had a mentor. His name is Shannon Manny. And he used to come over to my house, and my brother actually had graduated from high school, and he went away to college at one point. And so one of his friends used to come over and play with me quite a bit. And then one day he comes over and he's like, Curtis, I got to take you to really like the basketball mecca. Okay. Like there are an unlimited amount of courts. There's going to be so many guys to play. You never have to wait for next. It's downtown. Let's go. And I'm so excited to go see this place that he's talking about. He didn't tell me the name. And I remember pulling up and seeing the lights is the first thing I saw. I remember seeing the glass and it was like foggy and I could hear the balls bouncing. And I remember walking in and seeing, was it like 7 or 8 courts? And
we had 6 NBA size courts, and we took 3 in the 2 in the middle and made them into 3, extended them out a bit. And we had 2, we had one 80-foot court and 2 70-foot courts out of those to make 7 courts.
So you had 7 courts.
We had 400. We had 200 lights in there. It was very bright because that was another thing that I wanted to make sure that there was plenty of light.
Yeah. So how did you get the idea for Run and Shoot? Where did that inspiration come from? Like, tell us that story. How did you get it started?
While I was running these stores, I started gaining weight. And so I moved next door to a YMCA, and they had one court, and we played cross court every night there. And I had already had the video business for about 4 years when I started thinking about this. But as you know, there's always trouble finding places to play.
Right.
And I always ran into the same problem most guys do when you find a place to play that you can get a decent game with a facility like that. And that's where I really got my idea. But anyway, so when I started gaining weight, I started going to the Y, and I started trying to figure if there's a way to do something like that. But I had to get the video business profitable enough.
Got it. Okay. So it sounds like initially your inspiration was really like health and fitness. You felt like you were gaining some weight and you wanted to, just get out and play and just run and just be healthy at the YMCA.
And that's when I first really started thinking about, because there was another guy there, Chris Manley. Actually, he was my first manager. And
Okay.
he used to play over there too. And I started talking to him as well as about, there needs to be some place we could do this. And the video store gave me the idea, because they used to have a lot of copies, new releases. Used to charge $1, $2 a day, no membership fees. Cheap price, open 10 to 11, and it was just easy to get everything. So that gave me the idea about the basketball too, and it told me that you can have a volume concept, but you have to have plenty of what people want, or the volume concept doesn't work. You can't work volume with 2 chords. You've got to have enough to go around. So that's where I started thinking about getting a place open that would have lots of chords.
So what did you see at the YMCA that made you think, you know what, other people have this problem somewhere else?
Oh, well, I saw it all through my life, trying to get a game somewhere.
Okay.
And it was always the same thing. And even at the Y, we were fortunate that they took that cross court and gave it to the open play, because a lot of times a lot of these clubs, they're used for other things, recreation, especially the recreation programs. And sometimes you can't even play open ball. But the other problem is even when the open ball is available, a lot of people don't know it. They don't know when to come.
Yeah.
So you may go over there and see it. So people go over there and see an empty court and they think, well, basketball must not be that popular because the court's not even being used. Well, it's not because they don't want to. It's just that most times they just don't know when to go.
Right. They don't know if it's Tuesday. They don't know if it's Monday. They just have no clue.
And so when you have a place that has and the idea was, okay, full court basketball, 24 hours. You don't have to join a league. You don't have to do anything. You just come in. There's no membership fees. You can pay monthly, weekly, daily.
So just so I'm clear, so you're playing basketball at the Y. You're seeing that there are a lot of people on the side kind of waiting to play, and sometimes people don't know when the games are happening. So what made you, go from that to say, you know what, because a lot of people would see that problem and just think, oh, well, that's the problem. But somehow you looked at that problem and decided, you know what, I think I could start a business doing this. What made you feel that you could actually start a business?
I actually, a health club was one of the things I thought about. The 2 businesses that I thought about I would like to be in. And one is the entertainment video business, basically. And the other was a health club. Okay? Yes. And then as I started playing more and more basketball, because I'd always played, but unless I was in school at the time, it was always hard to find a place to play, And in fact, I made a trip to New Zealand at one time after I got out of the Navy. It was actually while I owned the store, but before I started playing heavier basketball. So I got the idea there. I just thought, man, this can work if you have a lot of courts. Yeah. But it takes a lot of money to do that, and that's why most people don't consider it.
Okay.
So I had to wait for my video business to become profitable enough to where I could have enough money to put into it myself that I could go out and get money, some extra money. I put about $400,000 of money myself into my video business, and I ended up with about $800,000 in it.
There's a quote credited to entrepreneur and philanthropist Naveen Jain. It says, "A person who sees a problem is a human being. A person who finds a solution is a visionary. And the person who goes out and does something about it is an entrepreneur." For all you aspiring entrepreneurs out there, this is the difference. Words versus action. Jon is an entrepreneur, and what gives Jon confidence is a couple of things. First, his experience in the Navy that gave him the tools to perform quick analysis of problems and swiftly provide solutions to them. Secondly, his experience in the video industry, going from 1 to 8 stores and having tremendous success with high profits and a lot of satisfied customers, while at the same time introducing innovative new concepts like his quality ratings. Third, he's a businessman. He understands supply and demand, and he understands the relationship between price and quality. But most importantly, he knew that good market analysis plus large volume equals success. Jon's perspective, he did it once, he can do it again. Run and Shoot was simply just another example of where the market had an unmet need and he was ready to solve that problem. So then one of the things I think about is I'm a budding entrepreneur and I have ideas all the time, but I think sometimes there's a sense of there's an idea you might have and then there's the execution. But you seemed like you were able to, you had the idea for a health club, a basketball gym based upon the demand that you saw, but that quickly turned into you feeling confident that you could actually pull it off. What gave you that confidence that you could actually pull it off?
Well, I knew a health club would be a viable business anyway. There's no doubt about that. I was assistant manager of the European Health Spa. The old style. Get them on a membership, and then you have the regular spa and the weight room and so forth. But it was very limited. Is what they had.
Yep.
And but I wanted to do a volume. I wanted to do like the video business. I wanted to get it. I wanted to have a lot of courts and let everybody come in and play. A lot of clubs, health clubs, close at 9 o'clock at night. They and we talked about the basketball. One of the problems with a lot of these clubs that have a court, so is the same situation. There was no basketball going on at one time. You might go on a Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock and nobody's playing because, like I said, nobody really knew that there were courts open.
Yeah.
And so they just didn't come down. If that was a steady thing every Saturday from 1 to 5, it'd be packed, but
right.
Usually it wasn't. So what the idea was, it was the same basic concept, is that you have to provide the people. The health club business, you should provide the service that they need, but with the courts and the aerobics and the other, you have to have a lot of what they want, and you have to have plenty of courts in the basketball. You have to have enough where people can spread out and you can keep those people coming in, and it's 24 hours to get the people coming off of shifts and so forth.
Yep. Yeah. Got it. So you're doing well business-wise with Movie Stop. You identify the opportunity in the market for a health club focused primarily on basketball. I assume you're living in Atlanta. How did you decide where you wanted to have this gym? Where did you start looking for a good place to have this facility?
Well, video business taught me about density of population, first of all, within 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 miles, so forth. But basketball courts and an athletic center like that, it's going to pull from a wider area than a video store, obviously. But also we wanted to get close to freeway so that people could have to get there if they needed to drive 10 or 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever. And so Lakewood Freeway was right there. And we wanted to be in an area that had a large Black population. Actually, the best area would probably be an area that that was right on the border. Mm-hmm. One of the places I looked at was over right at Stone Mountain Freeway and the perimeter. There was an old Kmart.
So take me back a little bit. What was Run and Shoot before you leased that facility? Like what was that business?
That building was a warehouse of groceries.
Warehouse? Okay. Like a Piggly Wiggly or a Woolco or something like that.
Yeah, it was a grocery store, and it was 80,000 square feet, and it had a back area with a 2-story back area.
Okay. So you how long did it take for construction? Like how long did construction take for you to get that together from the first moment you saw it to when you're able to open?
It was several months. I guess from the time I started, it had to have been 6 months from the time I first started working on it to finally getting the doors open, because there's a lot to do both inside, especially inside, of course, and just getting everything put together. Plus I had to go out. I went out and the financing, I got most of it. I got a couple $100,000 with some with a little limited partnership thing I put together with my parents and aunt and uncle and the lawyer and the architect and then 3 or 4 other people that got in on it, and they put $20,000 or $40,000. It was a $20,000 each for each partnership item, and I ended up buying them out after a year and gave them double their money after the first year.
So in 1 year, you were able to. So you had a partnership agreement. In 1 year, you were able to buy them out and double their money back.
yeah, I gave them their money back, and I told them they can stay in if they want. I said, but if you, but everyone, because of where it was, and it was new, and we were doing well, but everyone, always worried about something would happen, and then they'd be out of business, so they pretty much jumped at the chance to get their money.
Yeah.
Especially double. Yeah, and it would have been a while before they could have gotten much out of it anyway.
Yep.
That would have been when I sold, but they it would have been 5 6 years, so they just took the double pretty fast, and that's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. All right, we're gonna take a quick halftime break, and when we come back, Jon Bain explains his inspiration for the name Run and Shoot, his insanely successful opening year, and some of the challenges he experienced with keeping a 24-hour facility safe at all times. We'll be back in 20. Okay, so since 1891 is the official brand of basketball, we thought it would be pretty fun to actually play a little basketball trivia in between the break. So tell me, how many rules were a part of the original rule book in 1892? I'll give you a couple seconds. Got it? The answer is 13. Dr. Naismith actually developed 13 rules for the original game. Only 4 of them were not kept, so that means 9 of them stayed, but they were altered somehow and otherwise retained in their incarnations of the game later on. So that's your 1891 fun fact of the game. 13 rules were a part of the original rule book way back in 1892. All right, back to the show. So how did you decide the name Run and Shoot?
Well, the actual run and shoot is actually a football term when you get right down to it. Run and shoot football, the quarterback and the run and shoot game. Run and gun is actually a basketball term. I've thought about doing that, but some people tell me, no, don't use gun. So I decided to use run and shoot and just make it a basketball term. And that's how I came up with it. And there's some interesting things that happened in there. And one thing I thought was very interesting is that we started having people come in, and the first year we had 85,000 people come in.
85,000 people?
Yeah, 85,000. That's not how many we have, but we might get 1,000 a day coming in, or more.
But 85,000 unique visitors.
85 came through the door, yeah, originally.
Wow.
How many we retain on a regular basis depends on where they are and why they came in and so forth.
So, so then when you think about Run and Shoot, who were the competitors when you started the business?
There were really not any competition.
Well, I guess when you think about like in the broader health and fitness industry, because I'm sure there wasn't any competitors that were doing basketball, and LA Fitness probably wasn't what it is today. But who were the competitors?
No. In fact, that's something it's ironically someone had mentioned about the number of people we have coming in, but when I was talking to one of I think it was one of our employees, and he was talking about well, you got all these courts, you got to be able to get all these people in. I said, well, basketball is not everything. You got aerobics and weights and all that stuff. I mean, advertising all these courts and so forth is good and get the people in, but you're not going to keep these people coming in if you don't have what they want. And a lot of them don't play basketball.
So let's talk about that, right? Because I think, when people hear Run and Shoot, most of us think the 24-hour basketball facility.
Right.
But what percentage of the revenue did that make up, right? Like what was the real driver from your perspective as the owner?
I mean, it obviously brought in a lot of revenue, but the aerobics brought in a lot too. As far as numbers of people who came in, you look at it this way: in a condensed time, you can have a 5,000 square foot room. You can have 100 people in the aerobics class. For three or four classes, 300, 400, 500 people coming in. Same way with the weight room, not as many people. And so on a basketball court, you can have 10 at a time. So you've got a pretty big area there that you're having 10 at a time. So space-wise, you have to figure the aerobics probably brought in more revenue per square foot.
Per square foot. So you're looking at dollars per square foot at that point.
Yeah, if you talk about that, but it's not just that. It's just having everything there so that people come in, because people come in aerobics, they don't just come in for aerobics. They come in a lot of opposite sex around. There are other people around socializing, lose weight, whatever. You have to do the best in every area. You can't just say, hey, we got these basketball courts, we're great, and have a crappy aerobics room in a bad weight area and so forth, and expect them to keep coming, because they're not. Just because you have a lot of basketball courts.
So what made you think 24 hours? Like I think a lot of fitness clubs close at
Oh, yeah.
9, 10,
Yeah.
maybe 11. Like what made you say, you know what? Or at what point in the business did you decide
Well,
we need to go
one,
24 hours?
there were a lot of people getting off work at 11 and 12 and getting off work in the morning and whatever. And so the 24-hour was basically, why close it down? We don't have to have as big a staff there, obviously, and you don't really have to sign up on the courts, although you might sign up on one or two courts that are going strong. But you come in there and you'll see a couple of courts going at 3 o'clock in the morning, with the people that got off their shift work, and they're in there still playing. And there are others coming in and playing, uh, doing the exercises, later in the evening, and also overnight and early in the morning too. And so it was just easier rather than trying to shut the thing down. If you think about it, if you've got enough business to support it to keep going all night, then and keep it open, then you're not gonna. In other words, if the amount of costs, labor costs, electrical costs, and any other costs that you have for the additional hours, we had more than enough volume of business to support that and actually make us more profitable. So there was no reason not to do that, and plus it was a service to people. And it's a lot easier to keep something open than it is to try to close it up and do everything and try to open it up.
So you start the business, 93, it's growing, 85,000 visitors in the first year.
Right.
And you've got the courts, you've got a lot of traffic, you've got great, good pricing. Tell me about your pricing strategy. How did you determine what the price should be for run and shoot?
Ironically, with the first pricing that we did, it worked against us because we charged a lower daily price and a higher monthly. We charged like a $3 per day and then 30, I think 30 or 35 per month, and that was a mistake because you get these people coming from Stone Mountain, you get these people from all over paying $3 and stay all day long. And people come in and get their money's worth, whatever. And so we changed the pricing structure at that point. We changed it down to $5 per day and $20 a month. And so nobody really griped about that at all because the 20 is not that much, And actually our total volume of people on the courts at one time or in there at one time dropped because people didn't feel like they had to just get the money where they're 20 bucks, they come anytime they want. And also our revenue actually rose from there because we had more people on the $20 than the $5 added up to. So
Right.
it worked. So it worked out very nicely. That another part of the volume concept, the low price and we had a $5 a day, $20 a month, and $45 for 3 months. That's what we did.
Okay. So you had some basic, gotcha. So basic membership packages.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah, and we probably could have gone a little higher on the monthly, maybe 25 or something. But I wanted to get the volume in, and I was really picky about. Look, if we're going to raise this price, then we have to make sure they feel like they're getting what their money's worth. That's when I started doing a lot more things in the weight room, getting a lot of little things here, little touches, more computer access, more this, more that, things. And I actually heard people say, well, yeah, they press a lot of it, but they're doing a lot of stuff,
yeah.
better.
So did you?
Better.
Yeah. So did you start with everything from day one? Like I know you had the 7 courts.
No.
Was it or like what did you start run and shoot with, and then when did you start adding in some of the other amenities that were a part of run and shoot?
We always added. We started out with a certain amount of treadmills, a certain amount of this and that. We had all the basics in the weight room. We had the free weights, and we had the machines and so forth. We had 2 aerobics rooms. We had one that was 2,000 square foot and one that was 5,000 square foot. We had a track. It was a 3-lane track. Was it 4-lane, 3-lane? Yeah, it was like a 10 lap per mile track. So it was a pretty decent sized track. It wasn't a little tiny thing, and it was around the course. And then we also had treadmills and other weight equipment and free weights machines both. We had a lot of little stations there for them to do things. We even had a little computer system where they could look up some workouts and stuff they wanted to. Although that was pretty early in the computer era, and that's where we put the weight room and aerobics and the dressing rooms. And the aerobics were upstairs, and the weight room was downstairs on the right, and the dressing rooms were on the left. And as you're walking back, and it worked out perfectly. We just had to dig out a lot of stuff back there for the dressing rooms and so forth. But it plenty of power in the place, and air conditioners had like 10 was it 10 20 ton air conditioners or 20, I can't remember exactly, but we had plenty of them, you know, to keep it cool, when it's necessary. And
Yeah, I would imagine it gets pretty hot in a gym full of people, right? Like
oh
so.
yeah. We had in the aerobics room we had the aerobics classes, but on the courts, but I kept putting money in, doing more stuff, moving more stuff, getting more things, adding a lot of equipment in the rooms. We added more treadmills, we added more stairmasters and so forth, and because a lot of people didn't want to get on the track. That's one of the reasons that it took so long to start making really good profits, because I just kept putting everything back in. And I'd put all our profits we made for the first several years back into the place. And finally, we were making good profit. The year I sold, it was 98. We made good profit then.
Okay, so some points here to note. You know how, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have all these ideas for the service or company, and you think about the 10 things that you can do both now and in the future, and you start doing all of them like right now at once? Yeah, so that's the exact opposite way to grow a business, according to Jon's principles. And so what you see is that Jon started with a really basic concept of aerobics, track, basketball, and then over time, he added in additional items that he tested out, and he eventually made it a part of the operation. Secondly, he was able to do so because the business was cash flowing because he continuously reinvested the profits back into the business. Yeah, so you're making good profits. So you ran it from basically 93 to about 98. Is that about right?
Correct.
Okay, so was there ever a time in between 93 and 98 where you felt like, was it always a success, or was there any points in there where you're like, man, like it's not working out like I planned, where you may have had to have pivoted or adjusted course, or what were some of the low points for you when you were
There,
running run and shoot? Yeah.
there weren't really any bad points on there. We had there's always a security problem. There was a choice between getting a private company or having your own security people, and how you handled that. We had always had to keep an eye on the parking lots. You had people walking through the lots, and we eventually, instead of trying to get a security company and having people come in, because if somebody didn't come in, they were sick or whatever, you were stuck. You had a problem, and so we started having our own people, our own security, and they would, and the people we hired, a couple of them were actual security or off-duty police officers. There were security, and they kind of ran things, and that was one of the problems hitches that we kind of ran into, that we finally resolved by just doing it ourselves. And there were always little things coming up, but the main thing was the basketball courts. The balls kept going off on the track, and they hit people walking around the track. That was kind of sometimes ran into a problem there. And
Yeah. Okay.
that's one of the reasons why we bought more treadmills and more other exercise things. And we had didn't do anything as far as looking for weapons or anything like that, which most big facilities will do anyway. But even schools nowadays, But so we had a few complaints, so we did. And one week we had a wand, and we checked it. We found 3 weapons in a whole week.
In an entire week.
An entire week. That was all. That's all.
Off of Stewart Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia, you found 3 weapons in the entire week.
That's right. People just were not going to they're not going to do it because they didn't want to take a chance on messing things up.
So, why do you think that was? I mean, the area, the demographics in the area suggested that there'd probably be a lot of weapons, a lot of activity. Why do you think people?
First of all, we did allow police officers come in free, so we knew there was always police presence, which didn't keep them from bringing weapons in their bags or anything, but at least it made people feel better that there were people around. But I think the people that came in didn't bring them because they knew there was no need for them, for one thing, and secondly, they knew that if they had them, if there was an incident, then the place would get shut down. After maybe not the first time, maybe who knows, but something could happen, and they didn't want to mess it up, for one thing, if they mess it up, a lot of people would be pretty mad at them. I would think, and so I think that's a big part of it. There's maybe it's just kind of an unwritten rule. Don't bring weapons in there. Don't mess this up for us.
It's true.
I think that's a big part of it.
But you're right. I mean, I never felt unsafe. I always felt safe there, and I never even thought about it. I played, and I would come there on a Friday night. I'd come at 2 a.m. early morning on a Saturday. Like, it didn't matter what time I came. There was always people, and it was always fun, and I was never afraid for any reason at all. It was all about basketball.
The other thing about that that kind of contributes to that is one of the things when you go out and play pickup ball somewhere, there's arguing, constant arguing.
Yes.
And the reason for that is it's very simple. People argue not because you fouled them, not because this, not because that, but because if they lose, they may not get up for another hour or two. because they may not get picked. So they're going to argue about everything and make sure they win that game. But when we started a computer system sign up and took the next 5, that just solved that problem.
So let's talk about that, because I mean, you're talking about, so you started Run and Shoot. I think you purchased the property in 1991?
Well, we rented the building. Yeah.
You rented, okay, so you rented it.
93.
Okay, so you rented the building in 1993, and so in 1993, I can recall, like at that point, most households did not have computers, right? And if they did, they had one computer that everybody kind of gathered around.
Yeah, it was like maybe a PC, like a 5 or 10 megahertz, 20 megahertz PC.
Yeah,
like
but I remember coming to Run and Shoot, and at least on 2 courts, I can distinctly remember the court monitor with it was like a cart, and the computer would be on the cart for next. Yeah. How did you get that idea? Like that's game changing in 1993, 94, by the way.
It really was pretty simple. For one thing, I had a guy, a programmer that used to work in my video business, and I got him in Run and Shoot also. And he was a Wang programmer, but he could program PCs also. So we got in there and we got some little basic all-in-one computer monitors, and we put them out there, and it just had a little simple program that basically it took the people that were signed in, and that was another thing too. That kept people from sneaking in and playing ball, because they had to be signed in order to sign up on the courts.
Okay, so, that's smart.
So anyway, we took people signed in, and when someone wanted to play, they came in and submitted their name on the list, and so they gave a name or their ID or whatever it was. We did, and we got them on the list, and then so when the game was over, they called the next 5 on the mic. They call them out, and the next 5 come up, and if a guy had some other guys he wanted to play with, he could say, skip my name, and go to the next guy. So he still stayed on the list right where he was, and then the next guy was called, and he went with that 5, and then he slid on down, and the next guy maybe he wanted to go down until those 5 wanted to play together. Didn't happen that often, to be honest with you, because most people just wanted to go and play. And when we were signing on the computers, we never had more than a couple game wait. Usually by the time we started signing all the courts up, everybody just spread right out. No arguing. Nobody. If you're going to run a 94-foot court to 11, and you're not going to get to 11 right away, and you're going to run up and down, most of those guys are more than glad to sit out a game or 2.
So I think I remember in one of our conversations, you told me that, like, before you instituted the computer program, you had about 30 to 40 people waiting. So that's about, if you have 5 people playing at, you got 30, 40 people. That's somewhere between a 6 to 8 game wait. But after you put in the computers, I mean, like, how did it change the wait?
One thing, we didn't sign everybody up every day. I mean, all day, every day. In other words, we started the actual sign up on all the courts at about 5 o'clock or so, or when it started getting busy. We would sign up the 2 main courts a little earlier than that, but a lot of times during the day, we weren't signing people up right away, and it would start getting busier and busier, and until we realized that it was building up like that, and we weren't signing up early in the day, for example, like say 2 o'clock or something like that. We had not started signing on the computer, and we started noticing there were a lot of people waiting on this game. And there was. I remember this one time that I was talking about that court 1 and court 2 had like 30 people waiting on one, and like 20 something people waiting on court 2. And as soon as we went on the computer and started signing up on all 7 courts, that went down to like 11 people on one and 8 on the other.
Wow.
Because the people just wanted to play, most of them. Now the really good players wanted to play on those main courts, but most of them just wanted to run.
Just wanted to play. Just wanted to play.
And they wanted to play where somebody didn't pick 5 and they had to wait a bunch of games. And that was the biggest thing, and it cut out all the arguing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, because when you go to a basketball court, you're trying to figure out who has next, what's the score of the game, and when can I play? How can I get in it? And so like you kind of found a solution that was technologically well advanced for that time, but essentially it cut down on a lot of the arguing, and it made people happy. Like I remember you could go sit down on the other side of the track, like you go sit down on the seats that you had on the side, right, knowing that you'd hear your name called and you just jump in and play, and it didn't really matter which court you played on. So that's amazing. You had a lot of celebrities come through, and then you had a lot of people who made their names. Who are some people that you remember coming to Run and Shoot, in the 90s?
Most of the guys that came in were pro players and college players, some Georgia Tech players, and a lot of pro players that were playing overseas that they came in between time. And some of those guys went on to the pros here, but there were a lot of those guys that came in, and they just played over on the far courts over there, and just got in shape and ran. I mean, we had ball players coming all the time. We had one group of college overseas ball players that used to come in and take the far court over there and play there every day, just up and down them, running in and out. And we had a lot of pros come in and play, at different times. But we couldn't cordon off the courts and do anything, because we're not going to take away our business from our regular people for that, just for a few weeks or whatever. There'd be 15, 20 of them to come in and at one time, and they'd run in and out, just like you would if you had a 10-point game and bring the next 5 in or something. They'd just run in and out there and try to work into shape. And I don't even know some of the ones that come in. I know there were a lot of them that came in, but it's been what 15, 20 years. I can't even remember. More than that, it's been 25 years, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, 25 years later, and people are still talking about it, right? Wow, what a conversation. In the next episode, Jon discusses his plans for expansion, the fateful process that led to the sale of Run and Shoot, and some of the things he would have done differently. Any questions you've ever had about how it all went down are about to be answered in the sequel. Thanks for listening to Anything is Possible, brought to you by 1891, the official brand of basketball. I'm your host, Coach K. Musical composition by K. Rich. Till next time, dream big, work harder.